Right, now as resident trash taste haver of What Culture Gaming, there are plenty of things that I find the beauty in that perhaps others wouldn't, like, you know, Colonial Marines or Evolve or any of the other bad takes I've spouted across this channel and stood by, oh, she loves a bad take. But for hated mechanics that I actually love, there are a couple of things that jump to mind. And the first would have to be tutorials. I love long, lengthy, detailed tutorials that tell me exactly how to press a button, when, how, where. I love them. I love being introduced to a game slowly and, you know, initiated into it, not being thrown into it full pelt, but just getting to grips with things and learning how to enjoy everything before I then have to do it all myself. I think it's so nice when a game gives you a tutorial that is just, it just feels like them holding your hand and going, look at this lovely thing we've made for you. We want you to enjoy it to its fullest potential. So here's how you do everything. Here's a little manual. Have a nice time to begin with, and then we'll let you on your merry way to do exactly what you want to do. I just think tutorials are a nice touch, and I enjoy doing them, and I like to know all the different buttons intimately before I continue, and I just, yeah, tutorials, good. Red Dead Redemption 2, I was in my element because it's such a long prologue tutorial thing. I was like, hell yeah, give me more of that. I like this. In the Animus, in Assassin's Creed, I was walking around doing my walking like, ah, yes, this is lovely. I love the tutorial. But other than that, I also have to mention, I love it when games lie to me. I just love being lied to. I just love it. I can't get enough of it. I love it when a game says one thing and then surprises you with another, like film marketing when it does that. I love it when it happens in games as well. Like Senua's Sacrifice telling you that the game was all about permadeath, and if you got too much rot in you, then you would die, and then permadeath not being a thing, so you play your game very carefully, but also don't have the punishment of permadeath. So, you know, love lies, love tutorials. They're a gift. They're a gift to gaming, and you should appreciate them more.
I think the answer for this one, and it's going to cause everyone to literally want to destroy me with every fibre of their being, and it's actually that I really want games as a service games to succeed slightly. This isn't a case of like wanting single player focused stuff to then be turned into multiplayer focused things like Fallout 76, for instance, because Fallout is and always should be a single player experience. But, you know, when I was talking about in the Batman Arkham cancelled video, which I did a few weeks ago that you should all go watch because it's really, really good, and I go into all the cancelled Batman Arkham games that were in development over the last 10 years, I kind of really, really, really like the sound of what Rocksteady are doing on a potential Justice League title. And it kind of goes into the same vein as Square Enix's Marvel's Avengers game, which, you know, I think if they pull that off, I'm going to be so enthused. And this is a weird thing for me to say because I don't care for Destiny. Every other games as a service title has kind of eluded me, but the idea of actually being able to live out that superhero fantasy, even like months after launch with your friends who are all going to be different heroes as well, I think it lends itself to that genre more so. And, you know, obviously we haven't played these games, so we don't know how it's actually going to come out in practice, but at the same time, you know, I'm kind of really here for games as a service if they actually get it right. I don't want grindy, looty crap. I actually want a story as well. That's an important thing to bear in mind. But as a pure kind of, you know, fantasy for superheroes and comic book video games in particular, I think there is a space for them. Not to say that they should replace single player games or whatever, because Spider-Man 2 is by far the thing that I'm looking forward to the most. But yeah, certainly games as a service, I don't like it in its current form, but I see the potential, and I definitely think, you know, I've kind of got the hype for Marvel's Avengers and Justice League or Suicide Squad or whatever it is that Rocksteady are working on currently. You know, I kind of think it would work really well for that kind of, you know, video game. So yeah, games as a service might not be as bad as we all think. Maybe.
So a hated video game feature that I personally love is quite an interesting question because I've literally just finished recording a video about this exact like subject, and for me it has to be multiple choices. So I love the Telltale games. I think they are brilliant, and one of the main reasons that I love them is because it's taking a series that you might already love, like The Walking Dead, or a completely new series like The Wolf Among Us, and allowing you to make those choices and actually have an impact on the environment and the story is something that I've always loved. And it's very subtle within the first few games and the first few seasons of The Walking Dead especially. I can see why people don't like them, because I think a lot of the time it kind of implies that your choices will have an impact on the environment and the story, and sometimes it's not as impactful as you would otherwise hope. And I think that's the only thing that I would have to say that I don't like about them, is when they say that you have multiple choice, and even though you do get those choices, it doesn't seem like much is changing. But they've really improved in that. The recent Walking Dead series, the last final series, I feel like there were so many different avenues that you could go down, and I've played it a few times now and I still haven't got everything. There's different sort of lines that you can go down, and stories that you can go down, and people that you can communicate with, and people that like you and dislike you. That's what I just love about multiple choice games, is knowing that your decisions have made that story and they've given you that ending. But yes, I just don't like it when it's not as impactful as you would hope. You know, when you make these really horrible choices, you want to know that you get a really horrible ending and not a very similar ending to what might have been if you'd been a completely good guy. So yeah, multiple choice games are, for me, I will always love them, whether they are good or bad. I like having that decision, I like having that choice. So for me, it's always going to be a winner, but I understand that it's not for everybody.
So a hated video game feature that I absolutely love, it's got to be grinding. It's got to be just, give me a JRPG, give me a big old open expanse of land, fill it full of random battles, totally fine with them, never got annoyed back in the day. I know that, you know, you play back through something like Final Fantasy VIII, and at the very beginning, you're just trying to go from Balam Garden down to the port or whatever, and you're getting interrupted every few seconds, but I always loved that. I don't know why, I like the idea that I can just spend some time grinding out some levels. Obviously the irony in mentioning Final Fantasy VIII is that game's enemies scale with you for the most part, but when it comes to the likes of Final Fantasy VII and IX, the Persona games, like I love just sitting in a space, grinding out my characters, making sure that I'm nice and powerful. I think literally it's because it reminds me of in Dragon Ball Z when Goku's gonna go fight Frieza. I know this is a reference that only like half of our people will get, but there's this big evil dude called Frieza, big evil alien man, and he's taken over this planet called Namek, and Goku, our main hero, is journeying to eventually fight Frieza, but it's going to take him like months to get there, and all he does when he's in this capsule thing on the way to the planet is train and train and train, and he keeps putting the gravity level up higher and higher, so it's like 500 times Earth gravity, but he still does it. He trains Rocky style, so that by the time he actually gets to Namek, he just wipes the floor with everybody, goes Super Saiyan, beats Frieza. It's the best thing ever. But that mentality of just, you know, like zoning in and just grinding stuff out and knowing that you're getting stronger, that's the thing that makes me love grinding in video games or grinding in RPGs. And I know that a lot of people absolutely hate that stuff, especially when it's tied with random battles. I think it probably should be voluntary, but at the same time, I just absolutely love, like I said, just spending time in that stuff, making sure that I'm unlocking all different types of abilities, different spells, like ranking up in Final Fantasy's case, you know, getting level 2 and level 3 materia before I carry on to the next thing. I've spent so much time in the VR section of Final Fantasy VII Remake, just grinding out the AP, just leveling up spells so that I can take on different bosses later on. Basically, I just love getting absolutely lost in a video game's combat mechanics as much as possible, and when it's done well, there's few things better, to be honest.
Right, so I can't talk about the hated video game features that everyone dislikes, but I love, without mentioning swimming in water levels, because I love them, but I think that's more to do with me just loving getting wet than anything else. I just like getting wet, but what I enjoy more than that is actually weapon degradation in video games, which might be the worst take I've ever had, but I can't help it. I just love the stuff. Give me more, inject it, please. Whether it's Far Cry 2, whether it's The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, I can't talk about weapon degradation without talking about The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. I dig it. I think I just like being hindered in these video games. I like aiming perfectly at a man's head from across the map, pressing the trigger, only to have my gun jam. There's something about that really does it for old Josh, I've got to say. But for like The Legend of Zelda especially, I'd heard so many horror stories about how this feature broke the whole thing, but when I got to it, I thought it was really cool. It encouraged me to try new weapons. It meant I couldn't rely on one playstyle. It made for those really cool moments where I was scrambling around trying to find something to bat these monsters with. And I dig that kind of scrappiness and that unpredictability to any kind of combat system, and I think that's what makes me enjoy the fact that these guns or these weapons or whatever will be unreliable, even if, you know, it's not entirely realistic for your gun to get rusty over the space of half an hour, or a baseball bat to to just disappear in your hands. It might not be elegantly implemented, but I'm the kind of guy who also likes the weapon sway in survival horror games, whether it's The Evil Within 2 or whether it's The Last of Us. I like it when you can't shoot straight, and I won't take any of those upgrades that make me shoot straight. No, thank you. I want to be impeded at every possible place, it seems. I feel like this is the worst take I've ever thrown out there. People hate weapon degradation, but I dig it. What can I say? I can only be honest.